When you write a research paper or an essay, you focus it around a main idea called a thesis statement. It's composed of an argument or a claim and several reasons you believe this argument or claim to be true. These reasons are backed up by evidence that supports your thesis statement. We find this evidence through the information we collect from books, journal articles, websites, and other sources. A common way to look for supporting evidence is by using the details of your thesis statement as search terms. For example, let's say your thesis statement is, intensive farming practices such as overcrowding, force feeding, and force breeding should be outlawed because these actions contribute to poor animal welfare. To locate sources to back up this argument, you might try to search in a library database using the search terms intensive farming and animal welfare or similar terms. Once you've done some research and gathered some sources that back up the main idea in your thesis statement, it's time to start writing your paper. The first step is to carefully read the articles, book chapters, or other credible sources of information that you found. Pay attention to what you're reading. Take notes, repeat ideas to yourself verbally. Do any of these things until you truly understand what you're learning. Only when you understand the information will you be able to explain it to someone else through your paper. So what are some ways you can integrate your sources into your paper? Quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing are the most common ways to integrate sources. Paraphrases and summaries consist only of your own words, while quotes use some of the exact words and phrases you pull from a source. Let's look at this example of a quote. Rangeman et al. Assert in their 2015 study on the welfare of pigs in an overcrowded, intensive farming environment that the resulting, quote, limited access to resources such as food and water precipitates a competitive situation that leads to aggression, unquote. Notice how the cited information backs up the thesis statement. Aggression is generally considered a negative trait in farm animals, so this detail supports the idea that limited space or overcrowding contributes to poor welfare of the animals. Notice also that the quote does not stand alone. Instead, it is integrated into the paper in a clear, understandable way through the signal phrase. As a result, we as the audience understand why this quote was used. A longer quote can be integrated into your paper as a block quote. A block quote is generally 4 full lines of quoted text, though it's still a good idea to keep it as short as possible. It's set apart from the rest of your paragraph and indented 1 inch from the left side. Quotation marks are not needed. And don't forget the in-text citation. The use of block quotes should be minimal. If you find yourself plopping more than 1 block quote into a paper, you may want to read through your sources some more until you understand them well enough to paraphrase or summarize the information. Integrating sources smoothly and effectively takes practice. Pay attention to what you read in your sources, paraphrase and summarize when you can, and add quotes sparingly. And remember, always give credit to the authors of your sources by citing them in your paper and on your works cited or reference page. Plagiarism is serious business, but it can be avoided if you integrate your sources correctly. And try not to write your paper around your quotes. If your sources don't make a clear connection to your main idea, don't use them. Instead, return to the research process and find some sources that work for you and that make sense. If you do decide to remove a source from your paper, don't forget to also remove its citation from your works cited or reference page. You don't want to refer to a source that wasn't actually used in your paper. If you have questions about quoting, summarizing, paraphrasing, or avoiding plagiarism, contact the Writing and Speaking Studio for assistance. If you have questions about locating sources for your paper, talk to a librarian.